Welcome to Career Conversations by Future Forward. Every other week, we'll be releasing a new episode with a different professional to hear about their career journey and what advice they would give themselves as a teenager in high school to help you be more prepared for college and career decisions. So I'm Owen Brell. I'm the president and founder of Future Forward.
And I'm Micaela Tramontano, vice president of operations at Future Forward, co-founder.
And today we're here with
Melinda Miller, vice president of sales and marketing with Halifax Hospitality.
Good.
So can you explain to us what you do or what your daily day-to-day activities are?
With Halifax Hospitality, it is a hotel management company. So we own and manage Marriott and Hilton branded hotels in the Spring Hill, Columbia, and Franklin area. And we have broken ground on another Home 2 Suites True brand, Hilton branded hotel. So my responsibility is mainly to make sure the revenues are coming through the hotels, the profit margins are hit, create ads, marketing campaigns, public relations campaigns, community involvement, and just really make sure that the groups and the corporate accounts that we go after are the right business for our hotels, that we monetize those, of course, and that the guest service is there. If we have something big in, the communication with other departments is pretty solid. I'm kind of a jack of all trades some days.
So how did you get to this spot in your career? What steps do you take to get here?
You know, I started in college as an intern with a Drury Hotels in Missouri, the town in the area that I'm from, with Southeast Missouri State is where I went. And someone noticed me when I was in an internship with hotels and said, hey, you'd be good as a sales manager at a hotel in Indiana. What is that? But I was open. I was open to the opportunity. I said, okay, why? And why do you see this in me? Because obviously someone did. And I got a position there. And from there, I promoted. Each year, it seems like I promoted from one property to 3 properties in downtown St. Louis to big full-service properties in Nashville, and we relocated here. And then from there, I just really sought out opportunities that would work for me and a young family. My husband and I had been married 5 years. We decided to start a family, and a lot of hospitality jobs can be some hours. And so I looked for an opportunity at a full-service hotel in the airport area that gave me a business travel sales director position that worked remote. And so for about 10 years, I could work remote and travel to some incredible destinations, doing sales calls, travel agency visits, just really doing a lot. And that brought me to open a hotel in Franklin, to move my family to Franklin. And then from there, I became a dual director. From there, I became area director, and now I'm a vice president of sales. So I was very methodical in where I was going to go. Sometimes headhunters reached out to me. Sometimes I would reach out to someone about a position and go after it.
What do you enjoy about your job?
Every day's a different day. I get bored easily. So I like to stay engaged and excited. I'm the thrill of the sales. I'm a salesperson. It's in my DNA. I've been competitive since in the school I grew up in, selling things door to door as fundraisers. I was very competitive in Scholastic News, book sales. That's just who I am. And I'm very organized and very much a list person, taskmaster. And so I can do all those things. I can really dive into spreadsheets when I need to, and then really dive into advertising and creating things, campaigns, which I was doing today. So it's just very diverse, and it keeps changing.
So how do you keep up with the constantly changing of your job? Do you think that makes it difficult in any ways that are you having to constantly learn new things, or what does that look like?
Yes. So perfect example. We have a system with Hilton, a reservation system, and I'm in it all the time. One day we had one system. The next day we came in with about maybe a 6-hour tutorial in a completely new system. Reservations, check-in, check-out, group masters, messaging, accounting principles, everything. And we were all in the same playing field. So front desk agents, night auditor, myself, food and beverage, we had to learn what was called this new PEP system. And so that really threw us for a loop because I was a master at our other systems. And once I get in it, I do the training. Tutorials are fine. However, I'm on the job. I want to get into the software and do it. So there's a lot that we had to apply and learn. And they actually, probably just a couple days ago, there's a new called My Studio with Marriott that I had to get in and play with how to create flyers and how to rearrange things and look at thumbnails. And there's just a lot of details with it. And of course, tutorials are great. And you can spend another 2 days on tutorials, but then you got to dig in and just use your hands and figure it out.
So you are clearly involved with the Spring Hill community. I know you're part of the Chamber of Commerce, and you are helping out Future Forwards, which is great. So how do you manage staying in your community, like being a part of your community, and how do you, like, what joy do you find in your community?
You know, yes, I'm, when I do something, I'm on a hospitality tourism advisory board with Columbia State, with the students are getting their associates, and then with the Spring Hill Chamber, I'm a treasurer, so I'm definitely into budgets and making sure that we're profitable, we're non-for-profit. I want to make sure that we are good stewards of our money and what the small business is. I look for things that I can advocate for Spring Hill, Columbia, Franklin, because that's, of course, where my hotels are, and that's where I live. That's where my family grew up. And I look for leadership positions and volunteer positions within those areas. And I try not to overextend myself because my boys are grown now, so I do have some time, but I also have to have that balance too. But I do search out, and sometimes it's in the ask. Someone will see me as talking to, I think Owen came by, the career development. And I really believe in what they do with Williamson County Schools and that industry night and career development nights they do. Because some students, it may spark an interest. So I got involved in that too, and I met you, so which brought me to you. So so there's just some different various ways I'll try and get involved with it.
Yeah, I like that you're really involved. I think that's great to see, especially as, like, we really need people in the community that are, like, leaders, and that's awesome that you do that. One thing you touched on is, like, balancing between being busy. How do you balance that, and what does that look like? And if you have too much, how do you, like, get it back to a safe amount?
It was definitely a lot more when my boys, because I had a son at Page. I was in wrestling for 8 years, so that was a lot. And then the other son became an Eagle Scout, so he was in Boy Scouts. So I was very involved. But I had a manager that I proved myself with, that if I needed to leave at 2:30 to go to carpool, or if I needed to leave a half day on a Friday for a camp out, they knew where my heart was. I needed to be happy with raising my boys, and my son, or my husband was incredibly involved too. And I didn't feel bad about it, and my work didn't make me feel bad about it, because they knew that if I was happy as a mom, happy as a parent, that I was going to be really fulfilled at work, and I was. Now, I had to say no sometimes, that I couldn't work the concession stand as much as I wanted. Or whenever I was a merit badge counselor for an Eagle Merit Badge, there was a time where I couldn't take on more Boy Scouts, because you're really dedicating your time to these young people, and you really want to help see them develop. So hopefully I answered that for the most part. But it really was me saying no to something, or the respect I had for my employer at their time respected me and knew that I was still going to get home at 9 o'clock at night and maybe do some work, or just headed early in the morning.
So talk about your college experience. Like, how much does your college degree play into your everyday life? Do you think, in your personal opinion, that it's worth going to college? Because I hear a lot of students these days talking about how, college, you just go to college for a piece of paper. So what would you say to someone who's considering going to college, or, like, considering going straight into the workforce?
My boys went through that too. And to me, college is a lot about maturing. It is finding your people. I could have went to Mizzou, or I could have went to SEMO. Mizzou is an incredibly big campus, SEC now, of course, and it was wonderful, but I chose a smaller campus that I thought I wouldn't get as lost, that worked for me. It was a very personal decision. And I went into classes that I knew they didn't have a hospitality degree, but they had public relations and marketing, which I knew I could kind of cross-reference a little bit. And my boys did this too. They had to really think, did they want to go military? That was an option. Did they want to do a gap year and travel? That was an option. Did they want to go straight? Now, they really liked to save money, so they did the Columbia State and the Tennessee Promise. And they got their associates. And it worked great for them. They stayed home 2 years, and then they were gone they left. Actually, the one left probably when he was 19 to go to Chat State and finish. So he could still live in Chattanooga and be his free self at age 19. So I do believe that having a bachelor's and a 4-year degree is for a lot of students, but it's not for all students. I've talked to students that were doing the Tennessee Promise that went into welding, TCAT, and it was a school in not Hohenwald, but Pulaski. And they are making great money. 1 year, I mean, not even that. And there's other programs around, and it really has to be about the student and what they want. Sometimes they don't know what they want, but they need to look at the options. But I found with this particular degree that I got, it was very beneficial for me. It gave me opportunities with internships, and I had so many different classes that I could take in college. I took tennis, I took economics, I took philosophy, and I was even on the debate team, and we went to nationals. It was awesome. And I could have went into law. I mean, they said, hey, you really have a gift for this, but I went into hospitality. But it opens your eyes to so many different things you can do, and you mature along the way too.
How did you choose hospitality specifically?
You know, it was almost personal. My grandparents growing up owned hotels. I just so happened to always visit them at a resort they had in Branson or in Texas. And they were small. They weren't even identified with a brand. They were small hotels or small resorts. And I would go visit. My grandmother would talk me out of working there because they were resident owners and they were 24/7. But I loved checking in guests. I enjoyed it. I was kind of fun and neat. My grandparents did it, and they were proud of it, and they had a great life. My parents didn't do it. So I remember talking to my grandma about going to college to get a degree and if I could be in hotels, and she really was talking me out of it because she knew it was hard. But they were doing it different than what I was going for. So there's several different ways you can get into it, but that's kind of the road I chose.
So let's say like I'm a high school student. What would you say to someone like me I'm not really decided on my major yet, and that may be something I'm interested in? What would you tell to like help me find that out?
Do some career placement, get with your counselor at your school, and do some assessments. They can kind of tell where your brain, what might be your happiness. You know, they can pretty much tell if you're going to be going down the road of accountant, if you're going to be going down the road of a lawyer, a doctor, and then the 50 million other things in between. You can kind of, I mean, they had, I remember my career counselor said I would be a really great administrative assistant. That was so broad to me. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I was just multitasking. I was great at typing. I was great at organizing. I knew that about me. What I didn't like is I didn't love the numbers and the spreadsheets and the math. I wasn't as great in it. I can do it, but it wasn't my love. So my brain would probably be tired if I chose to be in something with all numbers all the time. Hope that answers.
Yeah.
For sure. So how did you find like contentment in your career? Like, what did you do to know that like hospitality was like the right for you? Like, talk about your internship experience and how you knew that when you interned at like a hotel that you knew it was the right place for you.
People were happy. Leisure guests would come in, bus tours, seniors would come in, teams would come in. That was exciting. And I was thrilled by that. I really enjoyed it. And then when I got to go to a hotel in Evansville, Indiana, I liked the team I was around. I liked the front desk people to housekeeping, to breakfast attendant, to food and beverage. I really liked the camaraderie. We were all from very different backgrounds, but we have a common interest of taking care of the guest that's on the road warrior, and seeing a group come in. Really exciting when I was at hotels in Nashville that we hosted NFL teams and collegiate teams, and I met so many cool people by doing that. It was invigorating. It was neat. It was exciting. And it continues to be that for me. You know, I just search it out. I just knew as an intern, and then I kept applying myself into sales positions that I knew I could continue to excel at.
Yeah. So what would you say, like, is the most unexpected part of your job? Like, you didn't see coming at all, and you're like, whoa, like, what was that for you?
When COVID hit. Didn't see that coming. You know, we didn't close our doors. We never closed. But the 2 hotels I was at the time, we went down to maybe 7 or 8 rooms. And we had to be there for the guest. And So many of my good friends lost jobs during that. It was very tough. I worked. I was still there, working front desk, working breakfast, whatever I had to. It was probably a good 7-8 months of really grinding it out. And that was really eye-opening. That was tough. But we did it.
So in business, I know it's important to have soft skills to be like competitive and to like collaborate with your team. Mm-hmm. So how do soft skills play into your career? And what advice would you give to someone like my age of how to develop soft skills?
Give me an example of what you think is soft skills.
Like communication or managing like a little conflict.
Yes, so that is a daily thing for me. And as a young person, I would say put yourself in positions. Work a retail job. Work things where you're customer facing. Work back of the house too. Find opportunities where you work with different people, not just your age. Because I work with different ages, different backgrounds, different cultures all the time. And be open to it. Ask those questions. Participate. I find with soft skills, I have to deal with conflict resolution often. Two people, they don't like to be around each other. Sometimes it happens, or someone calls out and someone has to cover. And so I'm kind of the intermediate, like, okay, let's find out, well, do you know why they called out? Oh, well, their grandmother passed. Do you understand why? It isn't someone's trying to wrong you, and trying to understand that as a soft skill and having empathy. I think in jobs, you have to have a sense of empathy and understand what the other person's going through. With hospitality, we're all in this together. I know there was a day that I had to go on maternity leave for, I was really gone 3 months. Someone had to pick up the slack. When I got back, I had empathy for those, and I was so respectful and so understanding of what they did to help me out, that I knew that they would probably go out and leave. And sure enough, my boss really months later went out on her leave with her baby. But we all respected each other. We all knew that we were all going to take our turn to do it. My boss then went out, another boss went out for shoulder surgery. So you just have to kind of know that you're in it together and that you respect each other. And you can learn that in your own household. You can learn that on a first-time job. Those are all skills that you can learn. Even, and my boys went through this, being accountable to being on time. Yeah. My boys had to learn that, working at Smoothie King or working at Chicken Salad Chick or wherever they were working at the time. It's not mom just saying you need to give yourself more than 10 minutes to get to work. Things happen, and building that in because someone else is holding you accountable too.
Yeah. So you mentioned having like a good environment and other like coworkers that respected you and you respected them. Mm-hmm. How, if you're like going into a job and you're applying for jobs and maybe you're even getting an interview, how do you know if a company is going to have that right environment, and how do you keep that like environment fostered in a good, healthy way?
I would look at their reviews. Mm-hmm. I would go in and eat at that establishment, go in and buy from them. Kind of look around. Are there managers there that have each other's back? Is someone jumping in? What does it look like around you? Are they collaborative? Are they smiling? You sometimes don't know till you get into it, honestly. And sometimes you need a job. And I had several of those that I did when I did work study, that I knew I was not going to work in a nurse's office and do that. But I saw around me people were still happy. And I was good at coming in. It wasn't going to be what I was going to do forever. But I just kind of learned from it. And you can kind of, you should be able to pick and choose where you want to go to work. And you can do yourself some due diligence. If you know someone that was there, you might get on LinkedIn. You might search your reviews. There are several different ways you can set yourself up for it. And then sometimes you get into it, and 3 months later, 2 weeks later, you're like, this is a hostile environment. I've got myself out of situations like that. They always say the grass isn't greener. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. But I think if you have an open mind, you did your due diligence, and then guess what? Managers do change. So what you thought you were getting into, have an open mind. Something may change with that leadership, and have an open mind who might come in next.
I know students that are looking to go into hospitality, they view hospitality as very broad because it's travel and it's also hotels. And I know you've talked about being open, but how did you find your niche and what you were successful in?
I knew I wanted to be in sales, and I knew I didn't want to be a wedding coordinator. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to work weekends. I don't have the bandwidth to work with someone hours and hours and hours. And with corporate accounts and with even just other kind of groups, the time you take with someone's a little less. And I knew I needed to churn and burn and move things over and take care of that corporate guest coming in, taking care of a family reunion coming in. So I chose not to be in just social. In hotel sales, you can go into social sales. You can go into corporate sales. You can go into so many different parts. You can go into catering sales where you're just booking dinners and breakfasts and events. And that is neat, and I may book it, but someone else services it. Because that didn't fill my soul either. But booking it, getting it into the hotel, being that one that they have 18 hotels out there to pick from, but they picked my hotel, that was exciting to me. And I knew my services were good, especially the people I work with. I chose to go to places that I knew the service was good and solid. So sales manager, now VP of sales, is I can oversee that, I can train, I can mentor, and I can stay in that revenue building, that excitement of it.
Do you think, I like how you talked about mentoring, do you have any specific people in your mind that you've mentored that you really enjoyed an experience with, or you've just seen an awesome, wow, this person's going to do something great? What do you have any stories about that?
Yeah. So there was a gentleman, and actually I just met him last week. We met up. He had just gotten engaged, and I wanted to hear all about that, and we're talking about his career. He was 19, moved here from Colorado, and he needed a job. And one of my other sales managers in another hotel didn't have an opening, but I did, and it was entry level. And all I needed was for someone to come in that I knew had a good character. I knew had a good foundation, and I knew I could train them. 19 years old, never been in a hotel except for travel, but he didn't really understand it. And he came in, he took a leap of faith, as I did, and we got him in entry level, and he got promoted within 3 years to a dual sales manager. And then from there, he went to a tech company where he's an account executive, living his best life. So, and then we were just talking the other day if he wanted to come back into this, because he's in kind of a hospitality role. He's doing a lot of sales calls and working on accounts and things. So he was a sponge. He got involved in every way he could. He would be there to meet and greet. He enjoyed the sales process. He learned when I said, hey, here's this new program we had, he would learn it. That was wonderful, because he really wanted to do well. I told him trying to go back to college because he had left, and he did. And he's gotten his degree now, and he's got a little skip in his step. Now he's 26, maybe 27, and he's doing great in his life. But I really saw something in him. It wasn't the technical skills. It was really the soft skills. He was good at communicating, good at a handshake, good at eye contact. I knew that he carried himself with confidence. I knew he had something, and he did, and he still does, and he's doing great. But it just made me feel good.
Yeah, that's a great story to hear. Your role sounds very dynamic. So how do you continue to improve yourself from day to day? How do you keep learning?
There's a book I've been reading called Go Getter. So I read books. I do. Sometimes it's on the car ride in, even though my car ride's literally 14 minutes. But if we have a road trip, like we're going back to Missouri this weekend, I'll put in a good book. Everything motivational, something that can take me to the next. So I'm always learning, always be learning. ABCs. Well, that's not ABCs, but I'm always learning, always wanting to do ABCs, always be closing. I do that too. But I find opportunities, like when I, even talking to you, I think when we first started talking, I'm like, this is a great way to mentor and to share my experience. So I search those out. I look for opportunities from young people such as yourself that want to learn, that want to do more, that ask the right questions. And I think that's helped feed my soul as well. It's been reciprocated.
Would you say goal setting plays a big part in your job and how you've gotten to where you are?
Definitely. I never tied it to an age. I probably could have been in this type of position a little bit earlier, but I really chose when my boys were in elementary and middle to be there when they got off the bus, to be very engaged. I couldn't have done such a high-level position with other positions would travel quite a bit more. I just had to be really methodical in choosing, and I had to have a goal in mind. Sometimes it was tied to a salary, the salary that I'd wanted to bring in, and the vacation tied to it, and any other benefits. But I kind of knew those goals. And I said I'd always want to be in a board of directors. Great. I said I always wanted to be involved in scouts. Okay, you can be. So if I said I wanted to be involved in something, I would search something out and have a goal for being in it, not just to be a number in it.
What would you say to a student who's looking to go into hospitality in the future?
I would say come with an open mind. You don't really have to be an introvert or extrovert. It's really not about that. It is about adaptability. It's about wanting to be around a guest. Now, in hospitality, you can be a controller and be incredible and be an introvert. You can be back of the house, food and beverage, planning out the day. You could be in catering sales and not necessarily customer forward. So I would just say look and see where your passion is. You know, if you stayed in hotels and you saw people running around helping with a huge event, maybe that was fun to you. Look into it. People make great salaries off of being in hospitality. And hospitality can be, one of my sales managers, she was on a cruise ship for 7 years, and she was an events coordinator. That's hospitality. I have another friend that's a flight attendant, flying for Delta. That's hospitality. I mean, it all coexists. Others might own a restaurant. That's really hospitality. You know, you're bringing in revenue for your city. You're creating experiences for guests. And we've all been there. We've all stayed someplace and we had that.
Do you have any tips for building connections and starting to build a network?
Yes. Just put yourself out there. You don't know who you're going to meet and where you're going to meet. My network, I would be involved in hospitality organizations, but then I also would be involved like with a marketing organization. I needed to sharpen my skills in marketing. I needed to sharpen my skills with revenue management, social media skills. There's a whole campaign with all those. So I would try and find groups. I would try and find networking and connections. I'd meet someone and be, oh, wait, he's part of such and such company. I don't know everything about that, but I'm sure my owner's going to ask. I need to have a connection. And if they needed help, I would be there too. You know, it's all about what can you do for me? What can I do for you? You know, I'm being open to that.
Is there anything you'd like to share with a student, like that's maybe undecided about their career pathway? Or like, I know you said that you've just been open-minded and methodical about everything. Is there anything you'd like to add to that to contribute to future student success?
Sometimes the work gets hard, and there will be a day you're like, what did I do? Well, if you have more days of this is great, then you're probably in the right place. People change careers all the time. They like my sales manager, he's in IT sales, and it's a little different than hospitality, of course, but he still likes what he does. And he found you can diversify yourself a little bit, but keep an open mind, you know, and say yes to the project. Say yes to wanting to be more involved. Say yes to the travel. Have a spirit about it. You know that, yeah, hard times are going to come. You got to pay your bills. You might as well be doing something that you enjoy. And that's what I enjoy with hospitality. It's afforded me a great living. It's given my boys an opportunity to see what I do and to stay at some amazing resorts at employee rate. They've loved that. They've traveled and been to some incredible places because of mom's benefits. So, but you may not, you may pick a career and think that's what you want to do. Learn to pivot because you may be in it and it may not be what you want, but don't let it set you back. You know, you have a skill set. Going to college, you're getting a degree, you're getting a skill set. You can change, you can grow, you can learn. And just keep open about that. Have fun. I do. I enjoy myself. I enjoy it. It's just fun what I do. But I'm going to tell you the numbers and the budget, what I'm doing right now and spending 4 hours on that isn't always fun. But then if I know my budget, I know my numbers, then I can use that to do some pretty good campaigns down the road.
That's so amazing to hear.
Yeah. So do you have anything else you want to tell us about your job? Or
It's just very a team-oriented environment. I work with some incredibly motivated people, and I surround myself with people that are yes people, and I have time for them. And I think you have to look for that too when you're in a work environment. You're going to come across people that are maybe in a rut, and they'll work it out. But for the majority of the time, just look for that and enjoy the ride. What you're doing today may not be what you're going to do next year, but make the most of it because you don't know the connection you're going to make. I mean, I didn't know I wasn't going to be welcoming tour buses, but that's how I got into hotels. And here I am working as a VP of sales over hotels. So you just really don't know where that future is going to take you.
Thank you. This has been very informative. And I think my biggest takeaway is just to be open-minded.
Yeah.
To develop my network and be methodical and have a set goal and vision of what I want to do and then be open-minded about the rest. And that's really great to hear.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It sets you up. It's not as much stress in your heart and you're having fun. And people see that you're passionate too. They read that on you, and you will find someone that's going to see you and go, oh, would they want to do this or that? Be open to it. They may see something in you that you didn't.
Yeah.
And go for it.
So just taking that every little opportunity you get and making the most of it.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Again, thank you for watching this episode of Career Conversations. If you want to be on the next episode, email futureforwards1@gmail.com and follow our Instagrams and socials. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.